Wells Fargo presents one of the surest ways to grow your money. A Wells Fargo CD account, where you can earn a 5.00% annual percentage yield on an 11-month term with a minimum opening deposit of $5,000. Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/CD rates to open a CD account and start growing your savings with us.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
I'm wondering if you'd go wandering with me through the wilderness and woods to where the winds are blowing free, through the darkness of the night, heading toward the morning.
Welcome to the Jester Section Hiker Podcast, with the spotlight on section hikers.
And I'll spread the word, and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come. And we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods.
All right, you guys, welcome back to the podcast. We are up to, let me see here, episode number 145. Approaching episode number 150, which will be a huge milestone. And today, to celebrate our newest member of the Hiking Radio Network, my pal, my friend, the individual that I geek out with on all types of audio and electronics, and hammocks, and anything else we can think of to go down YouTube rabbit holes with, Paul Collins, or you all know him as Skunkape. Hey, Paul, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jester, how's it going?
That's an intro for you, huh?
Starting to feel like Austin now.
By the way, I can't wait for you and Austin to meet each other. And I should say, at the release of this episode, we will be at our Woods Hole weekend.
That's going to be awesome. I can't wait to meet Austin also.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And I hope some of you that are listening to this are either with us or will maybe plan to join us next October when hopefully we do this again. But congratulations, Paul. Welcome to the network. And
I really appreciate it.
One of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show is over the last couple years, you and I have become really good friends. And
Right.
I think when we talk on the phone, it is no less than an hour each time we chat.
Oh, it's at least.
It's
At least an hour.
at least.
I think the other day whenever we was talking, I looked at my phone when we got off, and it was like almost an hour and 40 minutes. We were
I
on the
know.
phone.
And I mean, time flies because we're usually either, talking about some kind of backpacking gear, something for the network, whether it's artwork or audio. And we're going to get into all this. And then we're going to talk about your new podcast, the Hammock Hangers Podcast. But I want to give everybody some context so we're going to go back in our 2-year archive here. Do you remember exactly kind of how we started talking? Was it over hammocks?
It was one of your episodes. I forget who you were talking to, but you were doing a Facebook Live is what it was. And you had said something about talking about hammocks and that you would like to try one. And that's when I spoke up and told you, about HangCon and everything else. And then I just kept bugging the crap out of you about hammocks until you got one.
So fair warning, everyone. No, but I had, at the time, which is now, it's hard to believe, was almost 2 years ago, I have been wanting to try hammocks, get into hammock backpacking and things like that for a while, but just had no clue. And it seemed really overwhelming. All the terminology, everything I might need. And then I think the first time we met in person, you invited me to, what was that hammock hang that I went down to in South Carolina?
That was the spring swing.
And that was my first introduction to pretty much, demoing different hammocks, different tarps. And we actually recorded an episode that weekend with AJ.
Yeah.
And, after that weekend, did you actually think I was going to buy something?
Well, with as excited as you were, looking at them and everything, and then, I mean, whenever you laid down in the first hammock there and almost fell asleep instantly, I had a pretty good idea. Had a pretty good idea that you would.
That is true. And
I mean, they normally sell themselves. I mean, once you learn the correct way to lay in them to where you're not like a banana, because that's where most people mess up. They hear about hammocks and all that, and they're like, oh, I want to get one, and so then of course they run to Amazon and buy a $20-$30 hammock, and it ends up being almost child size, and they're uncomfortable. But I mean, once you learn the ropes of it and stuff like that, there's not many people that go back to the ground afterwards.
No, I don't. And for me, it's just going to be a matter of where I'm at or where we're hiking. Because if I could use a hammock, I'm going to use a hammock.
Yeah.
If the terrain or you're above tree level requires you to use a tent, then I guess that's where I'll use a tent. But so we met that weekend, and then I don't know, we started having, I don't know if it was Zoom or I can't remember at the time, because it was all during pretty much COVID that I was going down this rabbit hole. And, then we started like getting measurements and, talking to Richard, who I ultimately ended up buying the hammock from. And we had conversations with him at Art Geared. It was just like, this whole thing that I had no idea. I still don't know what size my hammock is. So you'll have to tell everybody.
It's an 11 standard. Usually the most common standard size is an 11-foot hammock. They do make, some hammocks that are 9 foot. You can have a hammock that's 12 foot. It just depends on, what you're comfortable with. And a lot of it depends on like your height and your weight also. But generally an 11-foot hammock is average, normal.
So finally got all that situated, and somewhere in between all that, I think I reached out to you and I said, hey, listen, because I'd noticed your logo for Hiking with Skunkape, because during COVID you had changed your logo, and I thought it was great. And I waited a little bit, because I was like, I don't want to reach out to him right away, because then he's going to be like, what is she using me for? So I waited a little bit, and I said, hey, do you enjoy doing artwork? Because I started seeing all these other podcasts that I listened to had this great artwork when an episode came out that they were using for their social media. So I reached out to you again and tell everybody how that went down.
I remember you messaging me and asking me if I knew how to do Photoshop. I was like, yeah, I dabble in it just a little bit. So and I said, hey, listen, I'm looking for some artwork. And I know I sent you, a couple different, and they were not hiking podcast artwork. It was just different artwork that I liked. And then you came up with the artwork for the show. Right.
And so what's your process? What were you thinking when I did that? I mean, to me, artwork is very hard. I'm not natural at it. I have been on Photoshop. I know there's a layering system when it comes to doing all that.
Right.
So
I enjoy doing that stuff anyhow. So, I mean, I was actually excited that you even asked me to help you with it. Because, I mean, like I said, I mean, I enjoy doing it. It don't take me long to generally do stuff like that. I mean, years ago, I love Halloween also, and there's a forum online called HalloweenForum.net, I think it is. But I used to create invitations for people's parties
Oh, wow.
on there and everything. I constantly had people sending me messages on there. They'd give me their idea and I'd design them up an invite and then send them the file and they would have them printed out.
Well, it's been awesome. And then I don't know if I should apologize to you or say thank you. So I'll apologize and say thank you because you started doing my artwork. And then Mighty Blue was like, wait a minute, are you doing the artwork? Who's doing the artwork for your show? Because I love it. And then I think, I don't know if Mighty Blue reached out to you. How did that work?
Yeah, he sent me a message also. And he's like, hey, he said, I see you're doing, the artwork for Jester's show. What are the odds of, me getting you to come up for something, with his show and then Anna's show, and just went from there.
And now, as of, I don't even know what today is, we are recording this. We are almost in September 2022. You're continuing to do the artwork for my show. You're doing the artwork for Mighty Blue. You're continuing to do the artwork for the Trail Dames.
Yep.
And we're going to get into this. You are doing the artwork for your podcast as well, of course. Yep. But, okay, so these rabbit holes. Okay, so we've gone down the hammock rabbit hole, and now we're into artwork. And you and I are continuing, to have conversations about the podcast. And this past spring, you actually came up to North Carolina to help me figure out my hammock and make sure I knew what I was doing and get it set up and make sure, we just hung out for the weekend at Birds Branch Campground in Elkin, North Carolina. And then in addition to you getting me all set up, that weekend led to something else that you are now doing for the podcast.
That was when Mighty Blue had gone over to England to hike over there.
Oh, that's right. He was gone for 6 weeks.
He was gone, and your episodes, that's when he was editing the audio for all your episodes. And, of course, since, I've got the Adobe Suite, I had Adobe Audition. I had asked you, I was like, what are the odds of getting the bumpers and you sending me one of your episodes just so I can play around and see how, see if I can edit audio as well. And you did. And so I done like 4 or 5 episodes?
Yeah. So one of the things that we did is Mighty Blue was over, enjoying his wonderful vacation. And so behind the scenes, I was like, oh, that'd be awesome if I could get you all hooked up, with the audio. And, we surprised Mighty Blue when he came back and said, hey, listen, we've already got some of these episodes edited. Paul, whatever you needed to do with Adobe Audition, and we did it. So walk everybody through that. Okay, so not only are you like social media artwork, you are now what I call, you're an audio technician. And this is all kind of hobby stuff, right? This is all a hobby for us anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all hobby for me. All of it. It's just what I like doing in my free time, I guess, whenever I'm not able to get out and go hiking or camping and I'm having to sit at home.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're really good at it. And I don't think, this is, an amazing a tribute to you. And I guess Mighty Blue, there's certain standards of audio for the network.
Right.
Mighty Blue, we want consistency. We want things to be a certain way. We never want to miss an episode. And we want our shows to kind of flow in a certain manner. And you did that.
Well, it was funny because whenever I'd done your first episode, I brought your podcast up and I would listen to it and then do the editing to try and, that way all the transitions were, coming in and fading out at the same time, how, the intro and outro would come in and everything else. That way there was the consistency. of everything.
And you've done a phenomenal job, and I appreciate it immensely because you and I continue to work well together. It takes, and I've said this multiple times, a podcast, it takes a team. It takes a strong, little army of people to kind of make each week's episode work.
There's a lot involved. I mean, honestly, whenever I first started, thinking about doing the podcast and all that, I was like, it's just recording and uploading. No, it's a lot more to it. It took me a little longer to get mine out than what I'd planned, because of, not knowing exactly what all went into, getting the hosting and, Mighty Blue got it all uploaded and all that stuff. But, with Apple standards and everything else, you're pretty much at the mercy of how long they take to do certain stuff as well.
So that's a good point. Let's do this. So let's walk people through the process. And this is a process for any podcast that you're listening to, whether it's one of ours on the Hiking Radio Network or whatever you listen to. When you begin to start a podcast, I mean, obviously you have to have a host.
Yeah.
You got to have the host of the show. You have to have the name of the show. You have to have somebody who's working on the audio. You've got to have a website. There's multiple layers to this. So let's go back to the very beginning. So what made you want to actually be a host and start your own show?
Doing all the editing and everything for yours, and listening. I'm just constantly listening to your show and Mighty Blue's show and Anna's show, and then doing the artwork. That was another small step towards. And then whenever I started doing the editing of the audio and everything, I was like, this is kind of fun, and of course, with my love of hammocks and everything else, there was really no other podcast out there. I mean, I think there's one other one out there right now
that was specifically talking about hammocks or hammocks, backpacking or camping.
Yep, about hammocks. And but that one, it was only coming out like once a month, and now it's gotten to where it's not even that consistent anymore. I don't know, what all he has going on, the host of that show, but he got, I guess, a little busy or whatever. So, which in one of his episodes, he even, mentioned it, that they're going to start being a little more sporadic than normal for the time being, which is fine. It's still a great, podcast to listen to. But I just wanted something a little more every week type deal. Something that we can. I'm going to be bringing AJ on a lot.
Yeah.
Also, because AJ, God, he loves hammocks as much as I do.
And AJ's your first guest that was on,
yes.
And rightly so. And he was part of that episode. I'll put a link to that original episode that I did with you and AJ when we first met.
Gotcha. Okay.
At one of the hammock hangs. I'll throw that in the show notes. So you've been going through this, what I'm going to call an evolution, not only with your own, hammock camping and what you like to do, but also dabbling in, and I've said this multiple times, podcasting is another, resume builder. It's another career. It's another facet of something that you can add to your tool arsenal. And you've done everything for your show. So you're the host, and you've created the artwork that goes on Apple and all the outlets that everybody listens to podcasts on. And you've done your social media artwork. you've done, we work off of a project management site called Trello. I call it a project management site called Trello. You and I have had sessions where we work on that together. So you've decided to do this. You're going to be the host, and you create the artwork. So what was it creatively in your mind where you said, yes, this is what I want the artwork to look like?
I mean, I changed it multiple times, but then the artwork that I ended up going with is really just a picture that I took of AJ at when we were at that hang at Spring Swing. He had decided to take a nap in his hammock. And so I ended up taking a picture, and it was actually a pretty good picture, but it depicts everything in that one picture. Showing, the hammock and the backpack and everything.
And that picture answers multiple questions that people might have.
Right. Because I mean, a lot of people, I know this is how I was, whenever I first found out about hammocks. I knew about hammocks, but the only hammocks that I knew of were like the netted backyard lounge hammocks. I never knew anything about camping hammocks until, I accidentally stumbled across it looking for a little one-man bivvy tent so I could do my 2012 through hike of the AT. Ended up coming across the Clark hammocks and ended up getting one of those, and I haven't turned back. I will not go back to the ground. The only time that I will go to the ground now is like what you were saying earlier about, certain trails and stuff like that will not allow hammocks. So that would be the only time that I'd go to the ground.
Yeah.
And I'd probably still go to the ground on my hammock because you can set a hammock up on the ground as well. You just need a couple of trekking poles or, something like that. But I'd still have my hammock with me because I don't own a tent. If I do, I take that back. I do own a tent, but it's like a 4-person Walmart tent that has not even been out of the bag in probably at least 12 years. So it may
okay,
not
so
even
pretty
be
much
any
you
good.
don't own a tent. You
Correct.
own something that probably needs to go to a yard sale or something like that.
It probably needs to go to the landfill.
Well, listen, I am super proud of you. I mean, I think it's awesome.
I appreciate it.
I was really excited when you sent me some initial artwork for your show. I was like, ooh, wow, he's really thinking about doing this. And I'm jealous of your artwork. I think it's great. I think you're a great host. I think you're going to have some amazing conversations with individuals from all over and how they hammock and why they choose to do things a certain way. And you're also going to be giving people information about various places across the country where they can go to what are called hammock hangs.
Yes.
And this is something that I had to learn about. And you guys host the largest one in the United States, I think, called HangCon.
Yes, HangCon down here in
So
Florida.
tell people about what is that?
What is the hangs or what is HangCon itself?
I guess both. So
Okay.
what can people expect when they hear, oh, hey, come to this hammock hang?
Okay, so a hammock hang is just a gathering of people that enjoy to hammock camp or I mean, it's not even, where, what am I wanting to say here? It's not just for people that, do a lot of hiking with hammocks. I mean, look at AJ. He calls himself the wandering napper. He'll take his hammock and, go down a trail for about a mile or so and just, hang out there. But they're gatherings for anybody that just wants to get together and enjoy the camaraderie of having a hammock and like-minded people.
Yeah, I mean, it truly is a community.
It is, and I mean it's growing more and more every year. It's hammocks are becoming more and more popular as people learn how comfortable they are and not having to, get down on your hands and knees to crawl into bed every night, or in the mornings, on your hands and knees to crawl out. I get up, I turn my feet, and got my stove right down below me. I can cook while I sit, I don't have to worry about trying to find flat ground or somewhere that don't have roots or rocks or ant beds, ant beds all over the place. I don't know how many times, whenever I was younger and I had a tent, how many times I'd get eaten up at night from ants, but just the comfort level for me is what keeps me in a hammock.
Yeah. And I'm real spoiled. I'm getting real spoiled now, especially, everything that comes along with that, the various quilts,
yeah.
The various bug netting, winter hammocks, summer hammocks, these community, group gatherings to me are a place where you can go learn, you can hang out with people, you can educate yourself, and you don't have to be a backpacker.
Yeah, definitely. No, you don't.
Yeah.
And, when somebody first, starts looking into hammock, hammock camping and stuff like that, or hammocks in general, it can be very overwhelming just because of how much you can customize your setup. If somebody wants a tent, they go to the store, they buy a tent, and your tent will look just like the next person's tent that's setting up, next to you. Whereas a hammock, you can choose the colors you want for everything, the suspension, the way you want it to hang, your quilts, you can get your quilts in a variety of colors or whatever. You can even do what's called print to fabric, where if you have a picture or something and you want that picture on your quilt, they will print that picture onto the fabric and then make your quilt. So, you can have it as customized as you want. And you can spend as little or as much as you want. It just depends on, how light you want to go with certain stuff and everything else.
And really what you're using it for, because what I'm learning, like everything else, I've got my setup, but I'm starting to look at other stuff because, depending on, if you're backpacking, if you're, whatever you're doing, if you want a day hike for the day and do what AJ does and hang your hammock up and swing by the lake, you may want a different style hammock. So
I have about 12 different hammocks. And
I was wondering how many you actually had.
Yeah. AJ will not tell me how many he has. He says that's not public information.
No, and listen, he's the one that says buy once, cry once. But I think for him, it's buy however much you want and cry all the time.
Yeah, he don't divulge a whole lot of information just in case his wife listens to the podcast later. I've myself though, I've got like 12 different hammocks, and each one is different. I've got some that are more geared for car camping. I've got some that are, ultralight, just depending on what I'm doing. If I'm doing a long distance hike, of course, I want to take something a little lighter. But yeah, there's
really sky's the limit.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
So now that we've established there's these various, hammock gatherings or hammock hangs across the country, one of the things that you're going to do on your podcast is tell everybody, hopefully, when they are, where they are.
Yep.
And obviously, we're going to talk about the one that you and AJ do, which is called HangCon, which I had the opportunity and the pure pleasure to go to last January. So let's kind of close out the episode. Tell everybody, when is HangCon? What can they expect? We want everybody to come.
Yeah, definitely. So HangCon is the largest hammock hanging gathering in the country.
It is. How many people were there? 300 or 400 people.
Yeah, we had last year, or this past January, we had 400, just over 400 register, and about 350 actually showed up. Some, changed their mind because of weather and stuff like that. A couple of people ended up getting sick, but yeah, we had people from like 40, what was it, 43 of the states attend. So I mean, we have people from all over the United States coming. People from California, Texas, Ohio, Michigan. I mean, everywhere. And
the vendors, oh my God,
yeah,
the vendors.
Yeah, we have the largest raffle around.
Okay, people, this is something that unless you're there to experience it, I'd never experienced anything like this in my life. So on Saturday night of that weekend, or Sunday night, I can't remember.
Saturday.
There's a raffle. And typically with a raffle, it's 10, 15, 20 minutes at the max. This raffle was like 3 hours.
Yeah,
I mean, it
was nuts. It was nuts.
I think I went and fell asleep, took a nap, and came back and finished off the raffle.
Yeah, well, as big as it was last year, I think we're going to do it slightly different this year. Just coming up January. I think we had 4 or 5 tables set up.
Of stuff. We're talking full on hammock setups, quilts. Yeah.
Yeah, we always do them, divided up into what we call tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Tier 1 are, like your smaller prizes and stuff like that, all the way up to tier 3, which are your full hammock setups, your quilts, your more expensive stuff. So I mean, we had almost probably close to 2 tables of tier 1.
I think I got enough permethrin to last me my hiking career.
Oh my God. Yeah. Sawyer just, whenever I was talking to the rep of Sawyer, and he asked me, he's like, well, how many people are y'all expecting to be there? And, by this time this was probably in November, towards the middle of November. And I told him how many we had registered. And so I didn't really think anything about it. And my wife and I was sitting in our bedroom watching TV, and I hear a noise outside. And she laughs at me every time I tell this story. But we hear a noise outside, so I get up and I go and I look out the window, and I see this big box truck backed up in my driveway. And this poor girl. This poor girl is sitting there just taking boxes and just dropping boxes out of the back of this big box truck. And I see, some Chewy boxes in this truck also. And I look at my wife and I was like, honey, did you order some Chewy? And she goes, well, yeah, I did. I was like, well, we might need to talk. I go, all we have is 2 little Chihuahuas, and I'm seeing what this lady is dumping out onto the ground. And she goes, well, maybe it's not Chewy. She goes, I ordered some stuff from Young Living as well. I was like, well, then we definitely need to talk. And she has no idea, what I'm seeing, So I waited for the carrier to get done bringing all this stuff up to the house, because I was not going to go out there and get cussed at, because there was like 6 huge boxes. I mean, they stacked up. They were as tall as I was, or as tall as I am. And I open up the door, and all I see is Sawyer written on the side of this thing. I was like, oh my God. But
Thank you, Sawyer.
Yeah. They really, outdid themselves. I'm hoping they'll actually be at HangCon this year coming up.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I know I'm planning on going. I'm sure Mighty Blue will be there. There's also workshops. Last year we did a workshop. Yep. You and I did a workshop together on, I think it was What's in Your Pack.
Yeah.
I did a 10 Essentials workshop, and I'm looking forward to it. Maybe we can get Austin down there too.
That'll be awesome. We do a lot of DIY classes and everything else also. Demonstration classes on the ridge lines and suspensions and all that stuff. We have a lot of people that are interested in hammocks, don't really know a lot about them. And that's what's great about any hang, is if you're, interested in hammocks and don't really know a whole lot about them, instead of, having to go out and spend a lot of money, to, find out, about them and learn about them and all that, you can go to these hangs and talk with anybody there. And, just about everybody will sit there and talk your ear off about it, about, what they have and, the things that they've learned and what works, what don't work and everything else. And a lot of people even let you, lay in their hammocks and everything else. I know like at HangCon, myself and AJ both, we always take extra gear. That way if somebody shows up and they don't have some, we'll let them borrow it,
Yeah.
and try stuff out.
It was great.
Yeah. And HangCon, it's always the weekend of Martin Luther King weekend. So
what's that, the third weekend in January, something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I think this coming up year, it's the 12th through the 16th that we do HangCon. We always choose that weekend because it gives everybody an extra day.
For that Monday. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yep. Because a lot of places are closed, and that gives everybody, they can stay the whole weekend and then leave Monday to be back for work on Tuesday.
Unless you were like me and Stephanie last year, we had to get back to Charlotte because there was a snowstorm.
Yeah, that storm.
Oh my God. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Y'all had a snowstorm up there and we had the rainstorm here.
But hey, it was
Yep.
It was amazing. It was great camaraderie.
It's free. It's free.
Well, there's the other thing. It's free.
We don't charge for it. Obviously we do, take donations because it's not free for us to put on. There's food included. We include dinner and breakfast for the whole weekend.
I forgot almost the best part besides seeing you. I have to throw that in there. Those Dutch oven.
Oh, the Dutch oven cobblers?
Desserts.
Yeah.
Unfrickin' believable. So if you go for nothing else,
everybody enjoys the cobblers, and everybody looks forward to the
cobblers. That's what it was.
Saturday dinner also, which is the pulled pork and the mac and cheese and
which, by the way, you started, doing whatever you do to the pulled pork at 2 a.m. the prior morning. I don't think you slept the whole weekend.
I didn't. I had fun though. But yeah, we smoked, what was it, almost 200 pounds of pulled pork.
It was incredible. All right, you guys. So first and foremost, welcome to the network, Paul.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you for geeking out with me. And just so you guys know, randomly, I'll get text from Paul. Hey, watch this video. And it's some geek, electronic video that leads me down these rabbit holes. And we do that quite a bit. Now we're on this audio rabbit hole with, what is it, DJI mics?
DJI mics, yep.
And we're at Woods Hole this weekend, so hopefully we're mic'd up because we're going to be recording, and you guys are going to be hearing more about that. And congratulations on your podcast. The title of your podcast is
The Hammock Hangers Podcast.
The Hammock Hangers Podcast, part of the Hiking Radio Network.
Yep.
Everyone go over, like, subscribe, share, whatever, all that stuff that everybody says. But in the podcast world, I think you can follow podcast on various apps, whether you're an Android user or an iPhone user, wherever you're going to listen. The Hammock Hangers Podcast, weekly episodes that come out on Fridays.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I got the Facebook, the Instagram, and the YouTube, which I really like the YouTube. It's pretty neat how that works. That way, if, somebody don't listen to it on Apple or Google or anything like that, they can still listen to it on YouTube, which is pretty neat.
Awesome. Again, I'm excited for you. We are, as you all are listening to this, we are together at Woods Hole Hostel having an amazing weekend. And I think after that, the next time I see you will be at HangCon. And I don't know, we should give everybody maybe a little secret. I'm not sure. I'm thinking about changing the artwork for the podcast because I'm coming up on the 3-year anniversary. So you and I have also been talking about that. Anything else you want to leave the listeners with?
Not that I can think of. I think we covered just about everything.
Awesome. All right. You guys know how this goes. Everything we talked about today will be in the show notes of this episode, which you can find on hikingradionetwork.com. You click on the Jester Section Hiker Show, and then you can go over and click on the Hammock Hangers podcast and listen to Paul's newest and latest episodes. And I think by the time this comes out, you'll probably have 4 or 5 shows out, if not more. Yep. And we'll be back. So thanks for listening. Be safe out there. Happy section hiking.
I'm wondering if you'd go wandering with me through the wilderness and woods to where the winds are blowing free, through the darkness of the night, heading toward the morning light. I wonder if you'd wander with me, and I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods. You're wondering if I go wandering with you, what kind of trouble we'll get ourselves into. Would it be wrong to tag along with a band of vagabonds? You wonder if I'd wander with you. So I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river. I'm wondering if you'd come wandering my way, if you ever get lost or if the trail leads you astray. The music of the pack can always bring you back. I wonder, can we wander away? And I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods.
Wells Fargo presents one of the surest ways to grow your money. A Wells Fargo CD account, where you can earn a 5.00% annual percentage yield on an 11-month term with a minimum opening deposit of $5,000. Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/CD rates to open a CD account and start growing your savings with us.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.